Okay, so here's how to set up your real-time intraday Samri Math indicator. I'm going to start off with a normal chart of the Dow Jones, 60-minute interval, normal candlestick chart. It's been tested with virtually each one of these. It works with Renkos, it works with range bars, tick bars. There are some other if you use some other formats like point and figure, for example, you're welcome to try them out and let me know if they work or not, or if they need any adjustment. So as a matter of personal preference, what I normally do is I take out those horizontal and vertical grids that NinjaTrader applies by default. It's just a personal preference. You can keep yours on if you want. You find them a bit distracting, especially with an indicator that has a lot of lines and grids of its own. So I'm going to turn them off. That just leaves the day separating, the session separator line, if you can see it. Right, so as you would any other indicator in NinjaTrader, you either click this button or you go indicators, right click on the chart, then indicators. The Samri Math indicator will be in a folder towards the top of your list, and it's right here. I'm just going to say add, or just double click like any other indicator in NinjaTrader. Okay, now you see there's a bunch of parameters that we need to set up. I'm just going to click apply for now. Now the first thing I want you to notice is that we have two components to this indicator. We've got this trading grid or diamond, which you might be familiar with, and we've got these plots, these lines called plots in NinjaTrader. They call them plots. Now the advantage of this indicator is that not only do you see the current trading frame, this is your current trading frame, this grid here or square-like formation is your current trading grid, but this grid will change over time depending on your settings and depending on whether the price reaches or breaches actually through the extremities of the +2/8 and the -2/8. You will know, if you trade you will know that once these levels are breached, we enter a new trading range. Okay, now these plots in NinjaTrader will help us know where the square has been over time. If we've been trading yesterday, the day before, and the day before, the range was pretty much the same. So the square would have been in the same place where it is now, at the same ends of the of these two plots. These two plots here are the 0/8 and the 8/8 and how they have changed over time. So yesterday, the day before, and the day before, we had pretty much the same trading range, but during pre-market today, the range shrank for a little bit, for a bit of time. The range changed. It became from here, the 0/8 was here and the 8/8 was here. So in that case, if I were to draw this manually, my grid would have been somewhere here at that time. Okay, now it didn't take long before it shifted back to where it should be. So this is where it is now. Okay, so we have our current trading frame ranging from the 0/8 to the 8/8, and we have a history of where it has been. Now let's set up the parameters that decide where the price ranges are. You go to the indicator again, open up the indicators window, choose the indicator. If you have other indicators applied to your chart, choose Samri Math Real-Time Intraday, and let's start with these options. First of all, this is how our price ranges are calculated in this section right here. The algorithm let's keep it for either normalized or optimized for now. I'll discuss them in detail maybe later, but let's stay with normalized for now. Now the square size, as you would know, ranges from 4 to 256. If you're an user, you would know that the frames go in multiples of 8, from 4 to 128. With the exception of 4, the others are multiples of 8. The others are actually multiples of 2 of one another. 4 into 2 is 8, 16, 32, 64, and 256. Okay, one more important setting in the parameters which control how our trading range is calculated is something that you don't see unless you choose auto. Remember, we are choosing our frame size in one of the standard sizes used by traders, from 4 to 256. Now, for this demonstration, let me just change it to 8 here. Okay. Now we changed our trading frame to 8, and what happened is the trading range became in such a way that each line here is 48 points. Yeah, it's just 48 points. Every 1/8 of the chart is 48 points. Now, what if I'm one of those high rollers and I will only trade the Dow Jones looking for hundreds of points at a time? So what I do is I have the indicator look for a frame that fits my trading style. I go to auto. When you enable this now, you get this extra field added to your parameters. I say auto, and then I want 100 points minimum on the Dow Jones per line, 100 points minimum. Now see what happened. It had to go, it looked for any it scrolled through the frame sizes from 4 to 256, looking for one that will give me a minimum of 100 points between one line and the next. So it ended up finding the appropriate frame was frame 28, and the trading range, that the spread would be 195 points per line. Now, I asked for 100, but 100 is my bare minimum. Now if I change that again to, let's say, 50, if I have a more conservative aspirations, and I choose 50 points, it'll find me the frame that achieves that for me is 32, the one we were looking at. Okay, so that gives me the range, the between one line and the next would be 97 and a half points or thereabouts. So if you're trading the ES, the E-mini S&P, and you wanted a minimum of let's say 5 handles per line, that's where you would set it. This setting is in points. Remember, it's in points, not in ticks. It's in points. So you do, if you were trading the ES, you would enter 5 points. Let's say you want 5 points per line, so that the entire range from 0 to 8 would be a minimum of 40 points. The indicator will scroll through the available sizes from lowest, which is 4, on to 8, on to 16, on to 32, all the way up to 256, until it finds the frame which gives you a minimum of the number of points you specify. It will not give you exactly the points you specify. Now I asked for 50 on the Dow Jones. It goes through the frames until it finds a frame where the 1/8. Remember, it's calculating the frames on its own, based on its own algorithm. Okay, just because you ask for 50, it can't give you exactly 50. It will look for a range that fits the rules of MM or fits the rules of mathematical trading, which gives us a minimum of the number of points that we specify. Prior square inclusion. Now this is a legacy setting. It was introduced at the request of somebody. I prefer not to use it. But if you want to use it, what it does is this. You expand your frame by 50%. You expand your look back for the frame, not the frame itself, the look back for the frame itself. If you're trading frame 32, what we're effectively doing is looking at the past 32 bars where the highs and lows have been, the highest high over the last 32 bars and the lowest low of the last 32 bars, and then we do our computations to arrive at the trading range from 0 to 8. Now, if you want prior square inclusion, what this means is I don't want just the 32 bars. I want 32 plus 50% of the bar before that. So that's, you're taking 32 and half of 32 is 16. So you're looking back effectively 48 bars. Now remember, 48 is not one of the standard frame sizes, but some people for some reason prefer to use that. I included that for that at their request. 100% is what it says. It's 100%. So now we're looking at 32 and we are increasing our look back by another 32. That means we're basically looking at 64. Okay, so leave it at 0 for now unless you have reason to change it. Wicks, highs and lows, or body, opens and closes. You can choose. Now remember, we said we're going to look back 16 bars, let's say. We're going to look back at 16 bars. Are we going to include the candle wicks, these parts that are outside the open and close? If you want them included, then you better keep the setting as HL. If you want only the opens and closes included, then you choose OC, opens and closes. Now this helps if you're trading Renko bars, for example, and you want to eliminate the spikes, so you end up with just the body of the candle. For the time being, or for all intents and purposes actually, let's keep our wicks at highs and lows. We want the maximum, the highest highs and the lowest lows of the previous bars. So this is how you choose your algorithm. The next thing we're going to do is to go into the next set of options. Trading frame history tracking. This is what we spoke about, looking at the prior frame, where it has been. So we have a couple of options for this. Right now we are looking at only the 0 and 8 lines. So this is the 0 and this is the 8, this is the 0 and this is the 8. This is how it varied over time. But we can, if you want, you can look at all lines. So that'll give us a history of where every single line from 0 to 8 has been, plus the plus 1 8 and the plus 2 8 and the minus 1 8 and the minus 2 8. So we're seeing these lines, how they changed over time, how the trading frame, the entire trading frame from top to bottom changed or varied over time. Another option is, so we looked at the 0 and 8 only, the all lines. We can look at 0 through 8, which means I don't want to see these oversold, overbought and oversold areas. I don't want the minus 1, minus 2 and plus 1, plus 2, 8. So they're gone from my history. Again, one more option. Majors. The majors are the even lines. The 0, 2, 4, 6 and 8. we've taken out the 7, the 5, the 3, and the 1, and we've taken out the outliers, the overshoot areas at the top and at the bottom of the trading frame. We're just looking at the main lines. If you trade you will know that these lines are little stronger, if there's if I can use that word. They're a little stronger than the other lines. And let's see if we have anything. One more option is none. I don't want to see those plots at all, so just turn them off if you want. There you go. The history is turned off, and all you're seeing is the current trading frame. The other option under history tracking is this. It's warn of impending frame shifts. I'm gonna keep it off just for 1 second. Now, what are frame shifts? If you trade you would know that a frame shift is when your range, which is from 0.8 to 8/8, plus of course the lines in between and the lines above and below, when sometimes the range will change. Why would it change? If you bust through, or if you breach, as we have said before, if you breach through the +2.8 line, the frame will change. If you breach through the -2.8 line, the frame will change. But the frame will also change depending on your look back. Right now we are looking at a frame square size of 32. That means we look back 32 bars and see where the highest highs and lowest lows have been, and then do some mathematical calculations to arrive at a harmonic octave of some sort, which ends at the 8/8 and begins at the 0.8. Now, if without breaching the +2 or -2, a frame shift is likely to happen, I would like to have a warning. For example, this here would have been a +1, and this would have been here +2.8. What I want to know, are they likely to continue going up? Are they likely to breach through the +2.8? I'm going to turn the all lines on so we can see them in history. Right. So here we are. We were carrying long, let's say, and we sold out at the 8/8. Now we went short at the +8, and those the courageous ones went short at 8/8, and the cowards like me would be waiting to short at the +2.8. But if we bust through the +2.8, there's gonna open a new frame, and it's gonna hold me short. I'll be short as it continues to go up. So we want a warning of when a frame shift is likely to happen because of time decay, because we've exhausted the number of bars in our look back, in our trading square. So if I enable this, you're going to get sets of arrows on the chart like this. Right now you can't change the colors. I'll build that into the next version. But what happens is if a frame shift is likely to happen somewhere, it'll point out where that frame shift is likely to happen. For example, here this arrow warns me that if we were trading here, let's say, this is going to happen in real time, so maybe I chose the wrong place to put it under history tracking. So we're trading here. We're trading here right now, and I want to go short at the 8/8, but I'm not keeping track of the 32 bars behind. The algorithm is. Now, because of that, the algorithm decides that if these numbers do not get breached, and we run out of this 32 time frame, 32 bars, it'll warn me that the 0.8 is likely to go up. It's currently here, but there's a possibility it'll shift up unless something happens. Now that something did happen, which is we got bars that are higher than possibly the range that we were looking at, the look back range we were looking at. So even though we got a warning here, it did not materialize. The frame shift did not actually happen. The blue ones are for the 8/8 line. Now here we got a warning beforehand that, look, the frame is likely to shift from this 8/8, it will become here. And indeed it did happen. The frame shift did occur. So how you want to react to that is maybe a scale in, scale out, exit the market and wait it out. These things will warn you of potential frame shifts. Here the 8/8 promised, or the actual, when we were trading here, I got this arrow that told me, look, you have an 8/8 here, okay, but it's gonna change. You have a 0/8. I'm waiting to take a long, or I went short here. Let's say I went short at the 8/8 here. Now I want to cash out at the 0/8, hopefully. All right. Now I'm waiting for the 0/8 here, but the algorithm warns me that, wait, your 0/8 is gonna jump. There's going to be a frame shift. There's potentially going to be a frame shift, and the 0/8 will move up here to where the 4/8 is right now. So maybe it's a good idea to cash out, to cover your short and take your profit. And the same thing with the 8/8 here. It told me that the 8/8 is going to there's going to be a frame shift that's also going to affect the 8/8. The 0/8 are affected, the 8/8 are affected here. And indeed, that frame shift did happen. See? This line changed position, and this line, the 8/8 changed position, and the 0/8 changed position. And then further down in the trading day, I got a warning here that the 8/8 is going to change, or likely to change. It didn't warn me about the 0/8 possibly changing, but this did happen. The frame shrank, the frame was compressed, and the 8/8 became lower. So if I was thinking of shorting an 8/8, I'll keep in mind that, hey, look, the frame, the 8/8 was a bit higher, so don't short right here. Don't short, especially now. Look at this candle; they busted through it really quickly. If I did short, then it gave me a couple of options, a couple of chances to exit, but the frame went on to expand. Look, here we did not get a warning of a potential frame shift. Why? Because the frame shift did not occur because of time decay. It occurred because they busted through the +2/8. Yeah. So these arrows will indicate to you a possible likelihood of the range changing, either by moving the 0/8 or 8/8. It doesn't always materialize. For example, here we got the warning, okay, but then something happened. The prices here, we got a bar that made whatever look back bar we're looking at in the past moot. It no longer happens. So the frame, we got a warning of a potential frame shift, but it did not happen. Okay, the next set of options is the trading frame itself. Now, I'm not going to look at its colors and line settings. We'll do this a little later. But for now, where does this appear? I'm going to bring back the history of 0 and 8 only. Okay, now let's look at how this grid, where it usually where it begins. The normal thing to happen is to keep it wherever a frame shift happens. So this was a trading range in the pre-market today, and when they busted through the +1 or +2, sorry, we opened up a new range. Now the default setting is for this grid to appear wherever a frame shift occurs. This is the normal setting. So a frame shift occurs, we redraw our grid at that point, starting at this point where the grid changed, where the trading range changed, the trading frame changed. Another option, not this one. Another option is to hide it altogether. I don't want it. The grid, the diamond, I don't want the grid at all, so it's hidden, right? So it's gone, and all these options that were there before were gone. Okay, so now we're only looking at the plots, the historical plots. You can change them to all lines if you want. Some people prefer this format actually for some reason, and what they do is they change these plots to straight lines, just straight lines, but that takes away your history. Maybe we look at that towards the end of this video as well, because I know that's a popular format for looking at them at the levels. Right, so let's go back to the diamond and show it. Now we have it hidden. Let's put it back to where it defaults, is where every frame shift occurs. Another option that you might want to look is to have this grid starting at a specific date and time. So this is how you do that. Grid start position is at specified time. Now look what happens. You get two more properties to set up. So I want it to start at a specified time. You choose your date. Today is the 2nd. Let's see, let's start at yesterday's trading at 9:30 p.m. You can change these 9:30 a.m. sorry. You can change these, you can decide where it begins. So now, as you can see, the grid has shifted. Let me just hide away the plots and keep just the two that we are interested in, the 0 and the 8th. Okay, so the grid, instead of starting here where the frame shift occurred, the grid now starts at yesterday's trading at 10:30 a.m. right? So now the grid starts here, and it will stay at this point and keep expanding. A good use for the option of anchoring the grid at a specific time and date is to simulate the effects of my other indicator, which is Samri Math price in time. This indicator is the real-time intraday version, which does only price-based calculations. It does not go into time calculations. So you can, in a way, with a bit of work on your part, you can try to simulate the effect of that by setting a specific date and time for starting your grid. Now, to demonstrate, I'm going to move to the daily time frame, and this is what users work on when they're using their EOD software, end of day software. What happens is the trading year starts at a certain date, a specific date. It's usually in October, the first week or first 2 weeks of October, or possibly the last week of September. It changes a bit every year. You can just go to Google and type harvest moon, first frost. You'll end up at many agricultural sites which will ask you to input what state you're in, what country you're in, what time zone you're in, and it'll give you a date for the harvest moon in the 3rd quarter of the year. That's the one that you'd be looking for, and some people call it the first frost, or they work out the first frost based on the harvest moon. Let's leave this terminology aside. The idea is that we're going to start the trading year somewhere in October, and then start counting our days. Our frames on the price and time version, what we're doing, we begin with, let's say we're working on the 16 bar square size. We start, let's say the year starts here. and we draw a grid, or the indicator draws the grid, and then it starts moving the grid as time passes on. As time passes on, it moves on to the next. What did we say? We were working on. If we're working on a 16 bar square size, it'll keep shifting this in time every 16 days. And while doing that, it'll also be changing the price levels. So the 0, 8, and 8, 8 would be here. So it'll automatically adjust them. Okay. So the other indicator will be doing this automatically. Now I'm suggesting here that you use this anchoring the grid. The option for anchoring the grid at a specific time is to do almost that, but you have to do this this thing of scrolling the squares yourself. What happens is, let's pick a date. Let's pick a date in October, as they do, and anchor our this is a bit messed up. I'm using a different machine. So we're going to start, sorry, on the 10th of October, we said, 9th of October, and let's just leave it at 9:30 a.m. Okay, what happens here, this is the manually drawn one, I'm going to take that out. What happens in this indicator is we start the grid at that specified date, but if you can see here, the 0, 8, and 8, 8, the octave, the price octave was different from what the grid is showing. Why is that? Because this grid, the pricing levels in this grid are based on today, the last trading day. The 0, 8 is here and the 8, 8 is here. So in October they would have been different, and you would have had to manually adjust them. Starting the grid here is going to start we're working on a 32 bar square size, so it's going to start the grid here, and then expand that one same grid. It's going to expand that one same grid to cover into and split it to cover the entire period. Now that's not right. That's not how it works. People who use that's not how they count their days. What they do is, as I mentioned, they take the first we're working on 32 bars here, remember. So they take the 32 bars. After they're finished, this is moved on, or I can do it like this if you want. So they keep rolling their square to cover a new bunch of 32 days. For now, we are sometime in mid-June. Now we're all at the beginning of June, and maybe a good idea would be to look at the frame size 256. Okay, because we're about halfway through that year. So okay, what happened here is I don't have enough bars on my chart. Let me put in. That didn't work either. Okay. So the date, the anchor is placed here in October, sometime in October. And then we are still in the 256 square size, and now the frames match, because I mean, not the frames match, the range matches, because this is the 08 and this is the 88 at the present time. We're halfway through the grid, halfway through the square. So in a bit you're simulating you're manually simulating what the price and time indicator does. That's one good use for the option of anchoring the grid at a point in time. Another option is to start it at a specified bar. I don't think you would be interested in this unless you are programming something. What this does, you see, NinjaTrader keeps account of keeps a count, not account, keeps a count of bars in its chart. Every bar has a number, so what I just did is I chose to start it at bar number 500. It seems to be very far away in the past. Let's see something more recent. You'll need to know, you'll need to be so this is like I said, you will need to be keeping account of the bars on the chart to know which bar to anchor it on. This won't be very helpful for most of you unless you are programmers. The one that is useful for you is this option right here at bars ago. At bars ago means I want the grid to start before the current bar by so many bars. Let's say 5 for now. Okay, and I'm going to go to the most recent bar in my chart. The most recent bar is this one, building right now in real time. I made a bad choice. 5 does not cut it. Let's say we want 15 bars before. Okay, so you see what happened? The grid start moved to 15 bars. These are 15 bars before the current bar that is working. No matter where the frame shift occurred, we are fixing our the start of our grid at a specific number of bars before the current bar. Okay. Now I'll go back to a normal frame shift starting point. So whenever a frame shift occurs, we have our grid repositioning itself. And let me just look at these two options here. Grid is auto-scaled and grid is multi-timeframe. Grid is auto-scaled by default. What this means is that NinjaTrader will take it into consideration when building your chart. So now it'll make an attempt to show you all the lines without any of them being missed. When if you have the chart expanded and then you press this, it'll reduce the chart, but in such a way that these two lines and these two lines all these lines are visible. The last thing is grid is multi-timeframe. Okay. Grid is multi-timeframe means if you apply a different time frame. I know some people like to have two different time frames on their chart. Let me quickly do that. I'll insert we are looking at the 15-minute chart, at the 60-minute chart. Let me just change that to 15. Okay, and what some people do is they want to see the 15 and the 60. So you add a data series in NinjaTrader. This has nothing to do with the indicator itself. This is a feature of NinjaTrader that you apply two different time frames to your chart. Okay, so now look at this. These are the 60-minute bars and these are the 15-minute bars. So every 4 of these account for 1 hour, account for 1 bar on the bigger chart. Now when I set up my grid to be multi-time frame, it means it will be replicated across all the time frames on your chart. So what we're effectively seeing here is the grid of the 15-minute chart, but we're seeing it how it panned out on the 60-minute chart. So if I were to turn this multi-time frame, if I disable it, okay, now what you see is you see it only on the native frame, on the main data series to which you have applied it. But if you want to see it on other time frames on the chart, you enable the multi-time frame setting. There you go. I'm gonna take this out now because we don't need it. Let's go back to a 60-minute chart. Okay, and the last thing we're gonna look at is how to fine-tune the appearance of your grid. Now the grid is entirely independent from the plots. They can be different colors. So where we set it is here. There's a whole bunch of settings. First of all, the price lines. And we're going to use the convention, which is from 0 to 8, and then plus 1s and minus 1s, and minus 2 and minus 2, plus 2. So here you have the lines that are enabled. You can turn them off or on. Let's say I want to turn off the plus 1/8. I don't want the plus 1/8. So I just, where it says is visible, I turn it off. So now we have just these lines and we've lost the plus 1/8. You can change the colors and styles. I'm gonna bring back the plus 1/8, but I'm gonna make it a little thicker. I'm going to change its styling. I don't want dashes. Now it is represented in dots. Now it's represented as dashes. I want to have it as dots. There you go. You can change for each of these lines. Now let's look at shading above and shading below. What this means is some traders have asked me to, like, let's say we are now trading around the yellow line, the 7/8. Okay, what they want is a stronger visual reminder that we are around the 7/8. Okay, and the 7/8 is apparently a line where fast reversals can happen, so they want a stronger indication. What you do is you can shade. Again, we're looking at price lines. We can shade above it, not this line. I'm looking at the 7th, let's say, any line you want, but for demonstration, let's look at the 7/8. Shade above, and the color and the shading. So they want it shaded in the same color. You can have something else if you want, and I've only made it 50% or 25%. So you see what happens here. This area now is highlighted in yellow, 25% opacity. You can have it below the line as well, so that it's a stronger reminder that we are in an area where a fast reversal might happen. So now both above the line and below the line are shaded. And it doesn't have to be, like I said, it doesn't have to be yellow. You can choose a color independently. Let's say people wanted to have it in white. Full white background. Right, I'm gonna turn this off for now. Okay, next set of settings are the vertical lines, what they call timelines. So timelines, again in Murrey convention, meaning from 0 to 8. Here you just choose their colors and whether they're visible or not. Let's say the 480, you don't want to see the 4/8. I'm gonna turn it off and then apply. the 4/8 here is no longer visible, or we can bring it back but make it a little thicker and make it a slightly different shade of blue, and let's make it a solid. There you go. Next set of settings is the speed and momentum lines. If you're trading you know that these lines are called speed lines. You've got the 45-degree angle coming down, you've got the 45-degree angle going up, you've got a bunch of other angles, and the ones in blue are major speed lines. The ones in magenta are the minor speed lines. You can control the how they look, all of them, and whether they appear on your chart or not, on your grid or not. Sorry, not this one. Speed and momentum. So we've got the 45-degree line, we've got the pointing up, the 45-degree line pointing down. I'm going to take those off for now, just to demonstrate. Okay, so you see those thick lines that we had in the middle of the chart, 45 degrees, are gone now. And you can of course color them any way you want. The 45 degrees, I'm going to bring them back. And the major speed lines are the other blue lines. Now the minor speed lines, I've colored them this shade. If you want something else, let's say let's say something like lime green for the ones pointing up, and lime green again for the ones pointing down. I'm going to make them a little thicker, a lot thicker, and I'm going to change their format to dot. And you click apply, and there you see the ones pointing down are now thicker and in green. The ones pointing up, I set them to green, but I did not change their thickness. So you can control those however you want. Now let's hide away the speed lines altogether and look at the different set of diagonals. They're in the same settings where it says speed and momentum. I'm going to keep the 45 and 45 degree lines pointing up and down, but I'm going to turn off the speed lines, the so-called speed lines. They're all gone. Let's just make sure they are. See, we've only got now the two main lines at 45 degrees. And now something else users are familiar with is momentum, not speed, momentum lines. Again, we've got majors and minors. We've got pointing up and pointing down. So I'm going to, they're hidden by default, so I'm gonna turn them on. I'm gonna turn the majors on to start with. So there you go. Now we're looking at at something more of what would be familiar to GAN traders, right? These are the GAN diamonds. They call them diamonds. There's diamond formations all over the chart. Hey, well, look, what do you know? 7/8 did a fast reversal from it dropped from 683 to about 100 points so far. That's not the issue for now. Let's keep looking at our charts. Setting up our indicator. These are the major speed lines. You've got minor speed lines in the same settings, in the same set of settings. I'm going to turn them on. I'm going to make them a little different. Default is the same color but different dash style. I'm going to make them lime green, and you click apply. There you go. See, now these are the minor momentum lines. The ones, the major ones are in blue. I've chosen to have the minor ones in green. Now on to the next set of settings, the circles of conflict. If you know how to use them, all well and good. I don't personally, but some people apparently price goes around them, these circles here. Let me just first of all get rid of the speed lines so we can just see the circles. Speed and momentum, up, invisible, down, invisible, minor, invisible, and another minor, invisible. So now we've got the circles. Let's control the circles. You do it here with the circles of conflict setting. You've got circle border is the outside of these circles. We've got 3 levels of circles. Core, which is right this here. All these are cores. Then we've got the inside circle, this one right here. And we've got the outside circle, which is the big circle around both of them. Now this is where we control their borders. I've set their borders in a very thin line. I'm going to, and made it very opaque. I'm going to make it 100% opacity. Now look at the core circles here. I'm gonna make its inside, its border a little thick. See this border here? Maybe I should have picked a more stark color for you. Let's say lime green again. Alright, see? This is the border of the core circle. You can control the border of the inside circles, these ones here. Let's make that yellow? Yeah, why not? Or deep pink. Make it a little thicker, a lot thicker. There you go. Okay, and it's in, you see these dots in pink? I should have made it solid maybe. Solid, and give me full 100% opacity so that we see them really clearly now. See those lines in pink? The same way you can set the wrong one. You can set the fill, the color which fills those circles. I'm going to do the outside now. You can see it's filled up with teal color. I'm going to fill it with pink. No, let's use something other than pink so that we can see it. Light sea green. Doesn't look very much different from what I had, so let me choose something else. Let's go with yellow. 20%. Let's make it. Let's keep it at 20%. Let's see. See, this is the filling of the circle. So each circle has a border, an outside border, and the filling inside. And the outliers are these circles here, the ones that are in the +1, +2, and the -1, -2 areas. Now again, you can control their insides. You can choose their color specs. I'm gonna make this like really thick. See? There you go. And the miscellaneous settings. The final thing is the miscellaneous settings. What are the miscellaneous settings? We've got the background rectangle. This rectangle you see here, you can set it any color that you want. You can turn it on and off. See, it's gone now. You've got the spread info. The spread info is this line here. Okay, it tells you what frame size you're looking at, and it tells you the spread, the distance between each one of these lines, the amount that 1/8 represents. One last thing I want to cover is the idea of saving your templates. Well, once you've set up your indicator the way you like it, let's say I want we can do it from here. Let's say you've chosen the all lines option, and you've set up your plots the way you want them. Okay, what you do is just remember to save the template. You can call it anything you want. Just in NinjaTrader, you go here, template, save, and just give it a name. A couple of templates I've already programmed is one using horizontal lines only. I said that's one of the that seems to be a favorite among some users. Not of my indicators, but people who use style trading. Is one favorite seems to be looking at the grid, at the octave, as simple horizontal lines, like so. Okay, now that shows you the current levels, the current octave from 0 to 8, but it does not tell you where the price has been. So if we were trading here and then we breached the +2/8, now it's going to build up a new range. These lines will move and you will just lose track of where you were, because you thought this was a 0.8, and suddenly you might see this level where the stock is trading, you might see that as a 4/8 or even a 0.8. But some people prefer it, so to each his own, I suppose. And another template I'd set up was what was it, for GAN traders. They like their diamonds, apparently. Where is that? Load. Here's some GAN-like representation, where the grid is more a bunch of diamonds all over. So the the indicator is very customizable, and once you've fine-tuned it to the way you like it, just save the template and you can use it all over again. Thank you for watching. I'll cover the bit about the difference in algorithms. Maybe I'll do a separate video for that, and a separate video about a question I get asked a lot, which is, what frame do I trade? What settings should I use? Sorry, but the MM system is not that easy. It's got a bit of a steep learning curve, and I don't think I can teach you, but I can show you around a few things that I've picked up along the way. This indicator will help you find points to trade, basically, points that are safer than others, points where you know how much risk you are taking. Let's say you bought the 6/8, you know it's going to go to the 7/8 and then come back to the 6/8 again. There are some rules that pretty much are available out there on the internet, and amazingly the the indices, especially the Dow Jones, the Nasdaq, the ES, the S&P Mini, the DAX, the FTSE in the UK, amazingly they stick to those numbers rather well. So I'll do maybe another video about that. This video has dragged on long enough. Sorry to have kept you all along. Thank you for watching, and good luck trading.